Bronny James has always lived under a spotlight brighter than most could endure. Born into greatness, yet forced to carve his path. Critics wrote him off long before his first college dribble, convinced he was destined to fail. But a quiet transformation has been unfolding beneath the noise of expectations and harsh judgment.
It's gotta stop. I mean, no disrespect whatsoever to LeBron on this issue. We all see what's happening with your son right now. It's kinda hard to watch.
Let's go on the journey from relentless skepticism to a revival few saw coming and ask whether Bronny's comeback might finally silence the doubters. From the day he hit his first layup in a rec league, onlookers were sizing him up against his father. Bronny James didn't ask for the name that rumbled through arenas everywhere, but he carried it anyway, an heir to the throne that LeBron James built. Scouts hovered at youth tournaments, fans examined every highlight, and social media minted him a prodigy years before he could legally drive. For many, the anticipation bordered on obsession. He's got NBA blood, he'll be unstoppable, rang the praise. Detractors countered, he's only being hyped because of his father. Bronny was stuck in a tug of war where every missed shot sparked instant condemnation and every flashy dunk became evidence of inherited brilliance. College coaches whispered about his potential, while fans argued online about whether he was the real deal or just riding a famous coattail. Even neutral observers found it impossible to separate Bronny's progress from the gravitational pull of LeBron James's global stardom. An avalanche of comparisons smothered his true game. Tall for his age, but not a giant, he showed flashes of crafty ball handling and a willingness to hustle on defense. Yet, people demanded more. The public looked for breakaway speed like Ja Morant's or unstoppable scoring like Devin Booker's, refusing to accept that Bronny was still growing. In those early days, it was less about what Bronny could do and more about the illusions fans projected onto him. Online, forums lit up with daily debates. In barbershops, old head fans reminisced about how they saw LeBron at 17 and how his son had better be at least as good. In truth, Bronny embodied possibility. When you come from a lineage like that, the world doesn't give you time to develop. His earliest steps on the court felt like mini auditions for a future dynasty, and with every step, the criticisms grew sharper, the expectations heavier. All it took was one misstep, a turnover, a missed jumper, and the internet tore him down mercilessly.
To get what he got, it cost somebody else something who was more deserving.
That was Bronny's reality, a spotlight bright enough to scorch any ordinary teenager, let alone the king's son. When draft night arrived, it was supposed to be an afterthought that Bronny James, still largely unproven in college, would slip into the late second round. No one anticipated the storm that would follow when the Lakers nabbed him with the 55th pick and handed him a guaranteed deal. The basketball world erupted like a powder keg. Some celebrated the fairy tale moment of a father and son possibly sharing an NBA floor. Others sneered, calling it nepotism at its worst.
The facilities are pretty much the same, and he'll be right near his dad. And obviously his dad is an incredible teacher to learn from.
Doubts howled across social media. A guaranteed contract for a second rounder who never dominated in college. The mainstream press quickly picked up the story, labeling it an unprecedented gamble. Fans of underdog players who toiled overseas or dazzled at mid-major colleges were outraged. They wanted their dark horse heroes to get that guaranteed spot, not the kid they felt had every advantage from birth. Bronny's early NBA minutes felt like sink or swim. The spotlight grew ruthless. Every mistake on the floor became a trending topic. Every airball dissected as further proof that he didn't belong. Bronny missed open three-pointers, dribbled off his foot, and recorded more turnovers than assists in those limited stints. Critics pounced, some even calling him the worst player in the league. Team insiders whispered that maybe the Lakers front office had made a public relations gamble instead of a strategic signing. The tension escalated when longtime fans and younger supporters clashed over how Bronny should be judged. One side argued that plenty of second-round picks struggle at first, especially teenagers adjusting to the NBA's speed and physicality. The other side insisted that any normal prospect with such unimpressive stats would never have seen a guaranteed 4-year deal. Meanwhile, LeBron tried to shrug off the criticisms. He'd post the occasional cryptic tweet praising his son's heart and dedication, but it did little to calm the swirling narrative. Bronny, for his part, rarely voiced frustration publicly.
The biggest thing for me is staying in the stay ready games and practice and stuff like that, and taking advantage like I did tonight. So yeah, it's been good for me so far.
His stoicism masked a fierce determination to prove he was more than the king's son, but even for someone so composed, the negativity had to sting. Night after night, highlights from other promising rookies overshadowed him. Bronny's dream had begun in a trial by fire, and he seemed to be losing more ground than he gained. Summer League was designed to be a testing ground for rookies, fringe players, and prospects eager to display their worth. For Bronny, it became a glaring reminder of how far he had to go. Simple rotations turned into sloppy turnovers. Clean looks at the rim clanged off the iron. Opposing defenders, many scrapping for a single chance, played him ferociously. The scoreboard rarely showed mercy, and Bronny's stat lines were tough to read. Single-digit scoring, questionable efficiency, and minimal impact. NBA commentators didn't hold back. They questioned his inability to shoot consistently from distance, pointing out that he'd sometimes pass up open opportunities, as if missing them would confirm the critics' worst assumptions. Online, highlight reels of Bronny's missed shots trended more than his made ones. Some fans even joked about him having the yips, a mental hurdle that manifests in the form of unshakable shooting slumps. Then came the preseason schedule, where established starters often rest, giving younger guys a chance to shine. Bronny couldn't capitalize. Even in friendly matchups, he struggled to read defensive schemes. When he found open lanes, he sometimes lacked the aggression to finish strong. The audience grew restless. "Where's the spark? Where's that James family aggression?" they asked. Throughout this rocky period, NBA veterans offered words of encouragement. A few older players shared stories of their first-year stumbles, reminding Bronny that the path from prospect to professional is rarely smooth. "Everyone can talk," they'd say, "but it's you out there under the lights, learning on the fly." That perspective helped Bronny keep his resolve, yet the negativity loomed, threatening to bury him before he'd even begun. The Lakers coaching staff tried to reassure fans that progress isn't linear. They pointed out glimpses of Bronny's court vision and strong footwork, praising his willingness to learn. But whenever Bronny took one step forward, the next game felt like 2 steps back. For a while, it seemed the son of an all-time great would never escape the swirling drama of hype, cynicism, and inherited fame. In criticism, the Lakers realized Bronny needed a place where each miscue wouldn't be magnified by millions of watchful eyes, so they sent him down to the G League. Some called it a demotion, but for Bronny, it was a golden opportunity. The G League is a crucible of overlooked talents, hungry veterans, and specialists fighting to keep their basketball dreams alive. In that heated environment, a young player either gets better or gets lost. Suddenly, the coverage softened. He wasn't on national broadcasts every game, so the pressure to perform felt more manageable. When Bronny walked onto the court for the South Bay Lakers, he found teammates who believed in him as an equal, not a marketing tool. The hunger in that locker room was palpable. Everyone there had ambitions of an NBA call-up, and that hunger can spark a different kind of camaraderie. The early games in the G League were rocky, echoing those tough summer league outings, but Bronny kept grinding, drilling jumpers after practice, dissecting film of each game with assistant coaches, and focusing on defense as a building block. Then he had his first real breakthrough. In one late December matchup, he shed the hesitant drives and timid jumpers. Attacking with purpose, he stuffed the stat sheet with points, assists, rebounds, and a couple of steals that ignited fast break highlights. It wasn't a perfect performance. He still missed open threes, but the confidence was there. Instead of shrinking from contact, he initiated it. Instead of deferring, he orchestrated. Fans of the G League, who understand how critical that system is for player development, took notice. Bronny's starting to find his rhythm, read a local sports blog. The game film showed a guard who was more decisive in transition, scanning for cutters instead of second guessing. His improved energy on defense earned praise from the coaching staff, who emphasized that consistent effort on that end would make him invaluable. Conversations about basketball rarely address how mental strength can outweigh raw skill. In Bronny's case, the psychological burden was massive from day one. Critics said he was an undeserving draft pick, a mere reflection of his father's shadow. Coupled with subpar early performances, that chatter could have triggered a downward spiral. Yet something changed when he settled into the G League. Friends and mentors close to Bronny described a renewed sense of determination. He arrived earlier for film sessions, analyzing each defensive rotation and memorizing opponents' tendencies. Assistant coaches saw a shift. He wasn't just going through the motions in drills. He was pushing himself himself to exhaustion, then asking for more reps. This mental recalibration translated to the floor. Gone was the shaky dribble in pressure situations. He started to direct traffic confidently. On fast breaks, he no longer looked panicked or rushed. He'd shift gears, probe the defense, and either kick it out or charge in with authority. Certain off-court rituals helped. Teammates mentioned that Bronny started journaling, jotting down daily goals and thoughts. He'd reflect on what went well, what needed work, and how he felt mentally. It wasn't just about the numbers, though those steadily improved, but the process of staying grounded amid swirling narratives. Whenever he felt the weight of expectations, he'd channel it into laser-like focus. Even the chatter about his father or the glares from naysayers seemed to fade into background noise. During timeouts, cameras would catch Bronny locked in, discussing rotations with coaches or telling teammates where to position themselves on offense. The timid player we saw in preseason highlight reels was nowhere to be found. Instead, this was a budding floor general who, for the first time, believed he had something real to contribute. Numbers don't lie, and Bronny's in-season stats gradually became the biggest proof of his evolution. While early G League box scores looked grim, the new ones told a different story. Points climbed to the mid-teens and beyond. Assists started to rise, showcasing a more creative playmaker. Turnovers decreased, reflecting improved decision-making. Though the raw data alone couldn't capture the nuances, it signaled steady progress. Coaches noted his biggest leap on defense. Once criticized for ball watching and slow rotations, Bronny learned to read passing lanes and anticipate drives. He'd peel off shooters at the precise moment, snag a steal, and ignite a fast break. His footwork improved as well. Less crossing of the feet, more lateral slides, and a better sense of how to funnel opponents into help defenders. These changes didn't happen overnight. They came from countless hours breaking down film of how elite defenders approach angles and spacing. On offense, the biggest revelation was his shot selection. Initially prone to hoisting contested threes out of desperation, Bronny started picking his spots. He'd nail an open corner jumper or attack a mismatch in the paint. The forced shots, those hurried fadeaways, or rushed early clock launches became less frequent. That shift also boosted his field goal percentage. Few things quell criticism like efficiency, and Bronny's numbers grew more respectable each month. As a playmaker, he began to blossom. A subtle pass off the pick and roll here, a timely no-look feed in transition there. His developing chemistry with G League teammates allowed him to understand when to push the ball and when to slow down. Defenses had to respect his mid-range pull-up, which opened lanes for drive and dish sequences. Suddenly, Bronny wasn't just a decoy or the second rounder with a famous last name. He was orchestrating the offense in key stretches. The synergy was best exemplified in clutch moments when coaches let him run the final plays. They believed in his calm under pressure, and Bronny responded by either scoring decisively or creating open shots for his teammates. Although far from a polished star, he no longer appeared out of place. Inevitably, Bronny earned a few call-ups to the Lakers' main roster mid-season, while critics warned the franchise not to repeat earlier mistakes by thrusting him into the limelight too soon. The coaching staff believed he was ready for spot duty, and this time, it wasn't a deer in headlights spectacle. When Bronny checked in, he showed flashes of the poise he'd honed in the G League. He hit a timely corner three, hustled for rebounds among bigger bodies, and even called out defensive sets as a newcomer on the floor. Those fleeting but encouraging stretches still left room for skepticism. Some fans argued that a handful of decent NBA possessions didn't necessarily mean he was ready for prime time. The jump from G League success to NBA rotation staple is massive, and one or two well-executed drives can't erase a rough preseason or subpar college stats. Others felt that seeing Bronny's newfound composure, no more rushed decisions, no more cowering when challenged by elite defenders, was a legitimate sign of growth. LeBron, usually stone-faced while watching from the bench, allowed himself a grin when his son drained a tough shot or made a key defensive play. The media devoured those father and son moments, turning them into viral clips that set social media ablaze. In interviews, Bronny spoke softly but confidently about trusting the work, crediting the G League stint for teaching him how to thrive under pressure.
And just me going in there and playing my game is always something that I'm gonna do. So yeah, just going in there with that same mindset, and keep my head leveled, and trying to still play my role.
As Bronny's G League performances solidified and his brief NBA showings hinted at promise, a new challenge surfaced, managing his role for long-term success, throwing him into the Lakers' rotation, especially when the team was clawing for high playoff seeds, could disrupt both his growth and the franchise's chemistry. Slow and steady needed to remain the mantra. Team executives carved out a plan, let Bronny finish out the G League season, potentially aiming for a deep run in the playoffs there. Once that concluded, they could evaluate whether to give him limited NBA action during the final stretch of regular season games. The plan rested on bridging skill gaps without intensifying the spotlight prematurely. After all, the last time Bronny faced unrestrained hype, it nearly crushed him. Behind the scenes, specialized development coaches worked with him on advanced pick and roll reads, off-ball movement, and refining his mid-range jumper. These sessions were less about novelty moves and more about layering fundamentals upon fundamentals. Footwork, angles, ball protection, and consistent shooting form. The staff also integrated him into film breakdowns of top-tier point guards and combo guards across the league, letting him dissect how elite players attacked mismatches or exploited defensive lapses. This was the methodical approach that young prospects rarely get when they're thrust into the thick of it right away. Management also recognized the importance of guarding Bronny's confidence. If the Lakers inserted him against teams like the Nuggets or Celtics, who excel at exposing rookie mistakes, he could regress if he encountered another wave of social media backlash. Tactful timing mattered. Creating a routine for Bronny's mental preparation was just as crucial as physical conditioning. Coaches made sure he had consistent check-ins with sports psychologists, who taught him visualization techniques to handle the next leap. LeBron's perspective helped too, at least from a distance. Though father and son rarely engaged in direct coaching dynamics, it was common knowledge that the elder James emphasized patience. He'd repeatedly mention how he once had to learn the NBA ropes on the fly in Cleveland, forging synergy with supportive veterans. Bronny was forging a parallel path, but with more tools and a stronger network around him. Bronny James's rise isn't just a story of skill regained, it's proof that perseverance can outlast any narrative. From scorned prospect to emerging leader in the G League, he's rewritten his legacy one hard-earned possession at a time. The next chapter remains unwritten, but one thing is clear: his growth demands patience, not hype. Will Bronny earn a spot in an NBA rotation when the moment is right, or continue carving his path from the shadows?